Between Two Amps is proudly sponsored by Liquid Death. Right now I am enjoying a mango chainsaw.
I got some severed lime. If you don't know, they have some new flavors that have come out recently,
and they're amazing.
They're really good.
Yeah, there's a little bit of agave infused in there.
Yeah.
And so it really makes those flavors pop. I'm actually really stoked on it.
Yeah, it's really good. Murder Your Thirst, by the way, that's what I do daily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could possibly get through a podcast without murdering my thirst.
I agree.
I mean, really, I don't think I could riff.
Yeah.
Without murdering my thirst.
I mean,
is there anything that you can think of that you could possibly do without murdering your thirst?
No.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I can murder my thirst. Perfect.
Perfect.
But I definitely murder a lot of songs.
It was a perfect thirst murder.
Perfect thirst murder. Thank you. Thanks, Liquid Death. Appreciate it.
Thank you to Liquid Death.
And watch our podcast.
Yeah.
I said watch our podcast.
Yeah. Listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, and murder your thirst.
Yep.
He was looking for a life that would give him the feeling of being worthwhile.
And welcome back to another episode of Between Two Amps. This week we pick up where we left off last week with Jonathan Nunez of Torche and Shitstorm and Sound Artillery Studio and Nunez Amplification. This week we get more into life in touring in Torche, as well as navigating the pandemic, opening a studio during that time, and some of the really cool stuff that he has going on with his amplification company that makes pedals, amps, cabs, you name it. So it's a great episode. Thanks for joining in again, and hope you enjoy the episode.
Around this time, getting into I remember, so I started going to shows at the beach, and that's how I found out about this Mesa Boogie shit. Like, okay. What is this? And I got a catalog that I would look at, and I'm like, man. And it's kind of funny, like the array of bands that they would stick on there. I think like maybe people were endorsement happy back then. It was like you had from like, I don't know, like Meshuggah to Guided by Voices play Mesa Boogie. They were just like giving a shit.
Yeah.
Totally. And so that's how I found out about it. And all these punk bands, I guess everyone started working and like, saving up money, driving piece of shit cars. And they're like, they were saving up. And there was a point in time where like these local bands stepped it up. And I'm like, all right, so this guy has his head, Mesa Boogie, Mesa. Okay. And then I saw the catalog in a store and like, we don't carry those. We could special order them. Okay, cool. I'll grab the book. And
they were boutique heads back then, right?
Yeah,
they were still hand wired. Yeah,
this was like all boutique. Because what year was that for when you were starting to? I would say mid '90s or
early 2000s, right?
Late '90s, yeah. You know what? It was somewhere between like '99 and like 2001.
Okay. Yeah,
that was the timeline of me having a head and a cabinet. Like it was like I saved up for a year. Oh, because this is the thing. I actually, with the Bag Boy money, there was a Mars Music. I don't know how far into the States.
I remember Mars, yeah.
Oh yeah, Mars was everywhere.
Dude, there was this guy. It was kind of like Sideshow Bob or Bill or whatever the hell that shit is. So he I think that's the first time I ever smelled patchouli. I was like, whoa, like that guy smells different. And dude, this guy was on another level. And my friend Eddie, he was only 14 or 15, but his dad will let him drive. And he had this 87 Maxima that smelled like tobacco. Nice. And that's how we would get to shows. We would go see shows. We would, you know, and I was just on the equipment watch. And at a certain point, I'm like, I see a pattern. That guy has an Epiphone guitar, but he has a Mesa head. And everyone had Marshall cabs. Around that time, I think it wasn't a cool Ampeg heads that like Assuk and all these guys used. That is it. The Jacksons,
the Lee Jackson,
Jackson. That's the weirdest, highest gain you could imagine. And it had the key thing, I think, like a little lock on the front.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I forgot about the lock thing. I remember
there was Galen Kruger guitar heads that had like a buzzy distortion too going around.
Yeah, because like Steve from Assuk he moved to DC, and I remember like all of the heads, like, because there was like a bunch of guys lived in the house, and like I was staying there one weekend, and it was just like all the Ampeg Assuk heads were like sitting there, just like, whoa.
And the funny thing is, I don't know if the Ampeg made slightly better quality 412s, but there was these super shitty 412s that you can get for like $125. It's crazy thinking about these prices. $125. But a friend of mine had that, and he had nowhere to put it. So I kind of had that with the Mesa head. But the way I actually worked up to getting the Mesa head was going to that Mars Music, and they had a Randall carpeted head and a Carvin carpeted 412 for $325. But
together?
Yeah, dude.
Oh shit.
And I remember I was just like looking at all the used stuff, and they had this a Hughes and Kettner ATAX 100 preamp, like a one-spaced rack. And I put that thing in like as if it were a pedal. The guy was giving me the Patchouli guy, he was giving me all these pointers. And I'm like, damn, that shit sounds heavy. Like, that sounds good. And but I'm like, and the ATAX thing was maybe $99 or $100. But I'm like, I'm gonna put this shit on layaway, the half stack for $325. That was a mission. But then later I sold that. Might have uppriced it a little bit, but it was just a little, along with money I saved up. And that's how I got my half of the Mesa Boogie head. That's how I got to $725 or whatever, something. And so that's how I got that. I had that half stack for a while, and that was pedals. But I had it, and it was good for a while. But you know, I sold that, and that's how I got. So when I actually got the Mesa, like I said, like I would notice patterns. That guy has an Epiphone, a cheap guitar, nice amp, or that guy has a nice amp, cheap guitar. You know, any combination you could think of, that's what was happening. People were trying to do it up. So I saw a lot of punk bands at this place of Roses on the beach. And then from there, my first show was at a VFW. And it was an interesting mix of bands. It was actually the opener was this dude, Mike Marsh, who was in this band, The Agency, which was a punk ska band. And then later went to do Dashboard Confessional, and then went on to bigger bands. And he plays with the Abbott Brothers now or something. He's a professional drummer for a living. Fantastic, like Stuart Copeland on lock, like great drummer.
Okay.
So he was filling in for his girlfriend or wife's band called Danny's Unit, and it was like total like heavy, like Riot Girl kind of alternative, grungy, but like slow, like it wasn't quite punk. It was like a heavy type of rock, but like kind of it's like, you know, definitely aggro energy, you know, but like very like mid-paced. So it was this band, Danny's Unit. Then it was this band, When Free Weapons Meet, which was Broward, like throwback to like some like 10-yard fight or something along those lines.
Like Moshko. I know. God, where were they? Was it? Were they from like what's the suburb that's north of Miami?
Fort Lauderdale, like Coral Springs.
Coral Springs. That's right. There's a lot of kids from Coral Springs, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big suburb. That was my first studio. Was almost exclusive bands from that area.
Okay.
So it was them, and then it was Shai Hulud, and I remember thinking like, my friend showed me the CD that I went to the show with, and it was so different from what I heard up until then. You know, I heard like I was into like, you know, Misfits, like a lot of Revelation stuff, like Youth of Today, Inside Out, and all that. But it was so different that I hated it. And then a couple of days later, I'm like, hey, let me borrow that CD. And then I really liked it because I liked the dissonant stuff. It was heavy, but it had melody. they were showing up, and like one of the guitar players had an Aphex Twin shirt. I'm like, they were different. You know, different guys playing that shit.
Yeah.
And I thought they were excellent. They were awesome. And then, but they were last. And the band before them was the singer at the time's new band, Newfound Glory, that played out of Crate combo amps.
Yes.
So that was like leaving the punk stuff, except for, you know, I went to go see like Lunatics and Vandals and like I saw like Pantera, White Zombie, I Hate God at the Miami Arena, which was crazy as shit.
Dude, that show sounds insane.
It was insane. I saw like Mutant Humans at that shit.
Oh man, like I didn't go to the show, but like so many of my friends went and saw him on that tour at Hampton Coliseum, and it was Phil Anselmo's birthday, and like he didn't even know his own name by the time like they went on, and it was just like kind of slumped over on the front of the stage. He's like, I'm too fucked up to sing this shit. It was just like hanging out with the mic.
Right. He was probably like that. He was probably partying with I Hate God before their set or something.
Oh man.
Dude, that was one of the first, like the Dimebag Darrell sound. That was the first sound where like, that's just not a fucking, that's just not an, you know what I mean? It's not regular. You know, I will say that I had an extra neighbor that kept exposing me to music and like, you know, like Slayer, Metallica. I kind of did on my own. I went from like Kill 'Em All to like Master of Puppets, and then went back from there and back and forth throughout their catalog, whatever. But he was always showing me stuff, and I remember one like Rage Against the Machine stuff. I'm like, damn, it's different. But the one record that like struck a note with me was like the only way I could describe it is like it was like, this is current, like this sounds real, this is like now, was Betty by Helmet. I was just like, this sounds you know,
dude,
like
like Wilma's Rainbow, like the and Milk Toast, I think were the two like hits off that, right? Off that one record. Like, but just like the Wilma's Rainbow and the guitar tone on that, like when it came in, like it's like da 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 da. I'm just like,
dude, that's that. Those
what?
Dude, that to me, I was just like, this sounds real, you know, because the thing is, like, going back to like the classic rock stuff, that sounded real to me. But then the more extreme I got, and the more like DIY or indie band, like it was like the quality, you know, for like maybe the DIY stuff or the local bands wasn't so great, but that was just quality. But the metal stuff and like the bigger things, you know, that I was listening to later, it sounded more scooped. It sounded smaller. I couldn't describe it at that time, but it's like the mid-range and the realism wasn't on par with the older stuff. But then hearing that, like the fucking Betty from top to bottom, I was just like, dude, it was like a sledgehammer hitting me over the head. I'm like, this is like current. Like this sounds like I could imagine somebody playing this right now in New York. Like they're playing right now, like in a room, and this is what it sounds like. It's like the realism really captured me, you know? I was just like, damn. And I think like things like that. And when I would hear records that sonically a guitar sound was intriguing, or, you know, even the bass, I was just like, that started to like really appeal to me. The different characters, like I didn't know that this dude was playing with our neck pickup. You know, I didn't know. And it goes full circle because when I was living in LA, I brought out some of the 212 ahead and a pedal to Paige's house. And I'm like,
oh, really?
It's crazy I'm even here, you know? And the kindest guy ever. And he was trying to play all these, like, dude, fantastic jazz guitarist. Holy shit. He was
really
ripping.
Yeah.
Like, damn. And bunch of videos, and he was playing all these chords. Like, man, you could never hear those notes clearly with distortion. Like they always it's like this, the preamp gets confused, it gets muddy, it doesn't translate. And he was really impressed with that stuff, and I'm just thinking like, I can't believe I'm fucking here, dude. I'm like, and he was playing helmet riffs, and like we started talking about the neck pickup thing, and like I think like ESP made him guitars like that. And he has like a signature or two from them.
Yeah.
He worked with a Freyet guy. I guess they go back and forth. He's like, no, the thing with him is he's hard-headed and this and that, and like, he's like, I'm trying to do this, and like, I'm like, what did you use on the early stuff? He's like, dude, we used 50-watt Marshall heads and just fucking cranked them. I don't know if they. I think they might have used like DS1s or something, or I'm not sure about the pedal, but they were like 50-watt Marshalls. You know?
God damn, man, the production on that shit is so good.
Dude, and like the neck pickup and like, dude, like meantime, all that stuff. It's just like the meanest because it's real. You know, it sounded real to me. Like I was just like, it's a real band, like playing real shit. You know, it doesn't sound like slick. It doesn't, you know, it sounded like, it sounds like a really good version of playing through real stuff in a live space, watching bands play. But that was, you know, that record came out like mid to late 90s, right?
Yeah, it was like 90, because I was still in high school, so it was like 95, 90s. Yeah, I think it was
96,
yeah.
Right. So yeah, I was like 5th grade, and I was like, you know, still like taking stuff in, and like my older friends would bust my top, like, oh, you must like this band now, huh? Like, I wonder why you like this band. But they would, you know, they got a kick out of it and always playing it. And dude, I did something where like I had a cassette player in the car or a cassette player, you know, a little boombox. But then I bought a couple CDs and kind of like just had them around. And I remember parents like, so like you don't have anything to play this on. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I got to figure it out. I don't know. So it's like I guess I was listening to cassettes in the car, and they hooked me up. They're like, hey man, you know, you're doing good. Which I don't know if they even looked at report card or I showed it. We weren't really that type of family. But it was like, yeah, man, it looks like you're doing good. And like, whatever, we'll get you a little boombox. And I'm like, awesome. And I remember when I started getting into this louder, heavier stuff, I would do my homework in the room with my boombox all the way up, like all the way up. And my friends that we would just like ride bike around the neighborhood, they'd come in and they'd be like they saw like some demonic shit. They're like, all right, we're just gonna go ride bike, man. We'll see you later. It's like it was like I was getting into this stuff, and like some of my friends were just like, man, they intimidated by it almost, or like weirded out. And I was like, you know, I just wasn't into the. I mean, I grew in Miami. It was weird. Like growing up, it's like.
Oh.
Did I?
You're back.
We might have to do two.
I had an incoming call. Sorry. But I was just like, it's like you're exposed to things like New Order, Two Life Crew, like Depeche Mode was probably big. It's Latin music mixed in there, booty bass, freestyle, like Debbie Deb and shit like that. Like it was just a really, you know, there's still a rock station.
Music mix.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess maybe that's why I'm drawn to bass and lower frequencies. But it was just kind of like you were more of an oddball if you were into rock music, even though like in the 90s, like that was like, you know, kind of like a lot of young people were super into rock music. But it was a little bit different, you know, and I just kind of like, I was like, it was kind of weird to some kids. I'm like, whatever, this shit rules.
So what was like the punk scene in Miami then? Like, was it as eclectic as kind of did that inform kind of like the shows and like who were on the shows and the types of
there was definitely a mix. I think there was in like the quote unquote scenes before, you know, I started playing in bands out and stuff because I was like always working up. There's like a big thing. Is this good enough? Is it ready? Whatever. I think like shows had a lot of crossover in the late 80s. Then in like the 90s, it got a little more like specialized or niche, you know, and then it started to get mixed up again, like the later 90s, more of a mixed genre bill was, and it's more exciting as a, you know, attendee to the show. Like, hey, I want to see some different shit. And even certain things, you know, if you're like, damn, I want to go see like fucking 3 thrash bands. Sure, I get that. But it's also cool. You know, there's sometimes maybe like way too different is not the same as like a little different. But, or, you know, different, but within like a, you know, a certain degree or something. I get it. I get it. But I feel like when my band started playing out, our Torche drummer Rick, who's also Shitstorm, his band, we kind of met and we're like, dude, like we'd never met each other. Our bands played together and like we started playing together a bunch. And there was a DIY space that opened up, which was basically an unused warehouse that a kid had access to. And it just had these shows, but there were diverse bills. Miami was always more diverse than Broward, I have to say, in my opinion. And that's like the Coral Springs and all that. It was more like, this is it. This show has to be this, and these bands. Like Miami was more like, into mixing things up and being different, and like you'd have a group of people that were in a bunch of bands that were all different, sharing members and such. But this one place, at any given time, you'd have like 200 to 400 young kids there, all like high school to like just starting college. I mean, even on weeknights and the weekends, shit, even more. It was crazy. So it was an awesome, like the typical show, which I'm sure happened numerous times, was like my old band, Rick's old band, which were, his had like crazy dissonant stuff and like more blast beats. Mine was like had some like clean parts and then, but like also, kind of noisy. And then there would be our friend's math rock band playing. So it was always more diverse. And like, so Miami, we were seen as a very different scene than the other neighboring places. But to me, it's just exciting, And like, we all listened to a lot of the same stuff, but we played different music, different bands. So that place started doing well, and bands kept on coming through. Bands kept getting booked. And this was all thriving. It was called The Alley. And this was thriving when a bunch of us, hundreds of us, were not 18 yet, and we couldn't go to Churchill's, which is our CBGBs. We were just. In fact, there was a show that sometimes bands would come on tour, and they'd be like, "Dude, what this? We wanted an all ages show. What is this? 21 and over 18?" And the bands would throw a fit, rightfully so, because they were misguided on what their show was gonna be like. And it was, English pub. They're like, if you don't like it, fuck off, whatever. But the singer from my old band, he had a warehouse by the airport. And there's like, one example was a Today's the Day Converge tour that wasn't all ages. And they're like, we're not playing it if it's not all ages. And the pub's like, whatever. So my singer Lowell moved it to his warehouse, and it was fucking insanity.
Insanity, right?
That kept on happening with like they did a lot of cool shows there. I remember seeing, what's this band? They're from Pennsylvania. I think like one of the Tim and Eric dudes was in it.
Ink and Dagger.
Ink and Dagger. Yeah, seeing them there, and they had the light thing going on, and even had like an old receiver playing like the interludes in between. I remember the flyer was like Pennsylvania's own vampires. I don't know. The flyer was always cool. Like for that spot, the flyers were always awesome. The sound was good, given it was a warehouse, and so there was there was actually quite a bit of venues. But when we couldn't get into, I remember being so pissed. The first time I was supposed to go to that warehouse, it was like Los Crudos and some other bands, and just couldn't fucking find. Dude, we shouldn't even been driving. My friend Eddie was driving, and we couldn't find the warehouse. We were just circling around the airport.
While the band, that show would probably been huge, man.
Oh, dude, it was nuts. And there was other like some local power violence bands playing. I would say like Miami was always had a mixture of stuff. Like that's the one thing that I guess I picked up, and it was just kind of my character as well. It's like I was always brought up to like, yo, do your own thing. Like, don't copy other people. And I think a lot of bands from here, maybe in current day, there's like a few bands within the same sonic realm, but they all do their own thing. It's always been like a diverse collection of bands doing whatever the hell they want, and that was something that was really good to be surrounded by, because like it was like with any given show. Even when I had I was hesitant to play a show, a guy that had a record label down here actually was a partner for my first recording studio. He was like, dude, don't overthink it. Just fucking play. Do you think people want to hear the same band 4 times in a row? Just do your thing. And I think that playing a show and going on tour is the best thing you can do, because you expedite where you want to be so much
real quick.
You get your ass handed to you by a touring band, you're going to get better. And when you're on stage, I swear to you, man, on that first tour, I was just like a minute into the first song on the first date. I'm like, I know what I want the next record or the next release to be like already. I couldn't wait to get back and start writing because I'm like, I don't. It's like I don't know what this is, but it's like I found it boring or whatever. But like I want this to be like hectic. I want it to be like popping off. I want energy.
Yeah.
I want like kind of like trim the fat. I think that's what you benefit almost immediately. As far as like pointers, it's like that's the main benefit. It's like just trim the fat. Like you don't want to bore people live, and like
Yeah.
want to have a good time. You want to have a good time. Everybody, let's have a good time. Yeah.
So like, are you at this point like you're starting to tour, and are you like when did like getting into recording start to happen? Like I know you're like the seed sound like it was planted like with the tape recorders and like the Tascam and all of that, but like was that starting to like in parallel with going out and starting to tour?
Yeah, like for the first show, or first shows that band had, like our guitar player Tony, he was taking recording at a college, and I still hadn't even entertained. I was set to go to veterinary school in Gainesville, and
Really?
yeah, so yeah, like look at me now. The idea with that course is you sit in and you assist on a session, so you could kind of see. But you're really assisting somebody that's in recording 2 while you're in recording 1. So I remember recording and I was just like, damn, like this is fascinating. And like, I just wanted it to sound like my vocabulary as far as like explaining what I wanted or what I hoped it would sound like was probably very primitive, but I was just like, I want it to sound like we sound and like what the actual equipment sounds like. I was always into like trying different things and like I'll get a weird trainer cabinet, get this and that, I mix it up. I always wanted to have different weird things, like trying not humbuckers. But on that first session, the drummer set up, and he was such a great drummer. Damn, and like he kind of like that. I know what I want to do next. That happened to him in the studio. I'm like, dude, we need songs that sound like what you're playing now. But we started recording, and I was fascinated. And we did 2 songs, and that was like kind of the demo that we would pass out and give out at the first show, or like sold for $2 maybe at our 4th show. Like, oh, I think we can sell it now, maybe $2 or $1. Or just in fact, if the person didn't have money, like, just fucking take this shit. And so we did that, and then I was like, man, this is kind of cool, and I was able to. Oh, I think we lost somebody. Yeah. I think he went incognito.
I'm here. I'm here. I gotta let my puppy out. I just got a puppy, Jonathan, and he is like brand new.
Puppy stuff. But power to the puppy. The recording thing kind of came in, and I remember once I was doing a favor. I guess my dad was feeling lazy, but he had a German Shepherd puppy that he had sold to a friend. He goes, "Hey man, you want to make a quick few bucks?" I'm like, "Sure, always." He's like, "All right, we'll take this little puppy down." Speaking of puppies, down to this area of town, and yeah, my friend's there, and you just keep the money, like maybe like $200. I'm like, hell yeah! So I went in his little work truck, and it was me and my girlfriend at the time, and we're almost there. Puppy's in the back, bungee corded kennel. He's safe. He's there. He's fine. And I see in the rearview mirror this car's hauling ass. I'm like, damn. And I stop at a stop sign. I see still hauling ass, and I'm safe to go. So I keep going, and I'm like, hey, this guy's going really fast. He's like, oh, I see that. I'm like, well, we're wearing our seatbelts, but I don't know. I think we'll be all right. And just as I thought that, I'm like, I think we'll. I see that he had slammed the brakes and he was swerving in and out of view. And right where I couldn't see him on my side view mirror anymore, I was like, I think we're, and just spun the truck around. My head was fucking hitting. She had a scratch from her puppy that was already kind of healed. It burst open. Like the impact was serious. The dog had like flipped over and peed itself. Luckily it was okay. And this guy gets out and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I just flipped my shit, dude. I was just like, there's a woman in the car. No, I got a puppy. I probably said, there's a puppy here and I have a woman in the car. He's like, because he started saying all these obscenities. I'm like, dude, you cut us off. And like, he knew that I wasn't taking it. Long story short, he was actually so rude and his father was so condescending when the cops showed up that I'm like, dude, these people are dicks. So I needed the car repaired. So we fucking sued them. and I got my dad. I owed him some money, so when I got some money back from all that, I paid him for some money he lent me. I paid for the repairs on his truck, and I had some money left, dude. So I bought a Gibson Les Paul Studio and a little recording rig, which I wanted the cassette thing, but the guy at the music store wasn't having it. He's like, "Hey, you just get an interface here, the Pro Tools software with this 001 interface. It's the modern thing, man. Unlimited tracks, you can edit." I'm like, dude, I just want to record band practice. Like, trust me, just get this. So I actually bought an M Audio one that was garbage, and then I went back because I found out for the same amount of money I could get the Pro Tools one, or maybe a little more. So I got that, and then I started recording practices, and I just was a fanatic. At the second the practice was done, everybody hanging out, and I was like itching to go mess with it and pan stuff, do stuff, balance it, like. So I started doing that. I recorded demos for us. I recorded an EP, 2 EPs for us, and bands would hear it and they started approaching me like, "Hey, we heard some stuff you did, man. Sounds good." I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Yeah, I'm down to do some tracks if you're willing." I'm like, "Of course." So I did like Rick's bands for free. And then I had bands like offer me money, like pay me to do it. I'm like, "Whoa." It's like, "Hey man, you record a few songs, like give you like, I don't know, like $300 or $500. I'm like, "Holy shit, yes." And I just started doing that. I mean, those recording, when the fixed rate recording always doesn't quite work out for the engineers most of the time, because I literally did that EP for a year. The music was done pretty quickly, but the vocals took a year. But I started doing that, buying little mics, little sets, affordable stuff, and I had very low expectations, but I was chasing sounds and like experimenting, and so one thing led to the next, and like suddenly I didn't want to go to veterinary school anymore, and I just wanted to keep doing this music shit, and I started touring, and I don't know, it was fun, and like one thing that I experienced was I booked time with an old band to go record with a studio, at a studio in Coral Springs, and it was totally like a new like child move, but the day of, drummer called me like, "Hey, so we're recording today, right?" And it dawned on me, I'm like, "Yeah, we're not going." And he's like, "Well, huh? Didn't you book?" I'm like, "Yeah." And the dude was super paranoid, pothead guy. He's like, "Where do you get my number? Who is this?" I'm like, "Dude, I got your number for the record store. It's cool." Like, I'm just, but I realized it, and like, I just didn't think of it, but it hit me like when we're gonna go record. Like everybody that records there sounds the same. It all sounds the same. And I'm like, we aren't that type of band. Like, we're playing like different instruments and different amps and different this, and we're not in a pretentious way or anything, but it's like that's what made the music sound correct to us. And this guy would have just like super triggered everything, like scooped my guitar and like all sorts of stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, we're not." I should have called ahead, and I should have called that day. Like, that's not, the dude probably didn't even have me on the damn calendar. But it was just like, you know what? Like, let's just do it ourselves. And it was like, whoa, yeah, let's do it. And I just had that simple rig and just kind of like recorded the drums maybe 2 times, and after that I kind of got a flow of like an idea of how things come out better. But I got a lot of rehearsal, with the whole trial and error recording practices. That's where it all started.
So like, for those listening on the pod side of things, like there is a massive rack of gear behind Jonathan, and just having recorded with you, like, know that you have some incredible pieces of gear. Like what inspires like a new purchase, or like getting a new piece of recording gear, like new, like a new console? Looks like that might be a new console over there.
I cleaned it up a bit. No, it's still the same one. It's definitely like an one of a kind kind of oddball, which I got it from a guy who owned a mastering studio in like I don't know if it's Virginia or something, but it's like Black Lodge or something. They did like some Fleetwood Mac record or something. Like this dude Jack Holy, and I found this thing on eBay, and I was like, "Damn, this looks awesome." And I messaged him, and he was like, I'm not in a position to make a deal on it, I'd rather wait till the auction expires and we can get in touch via email. And this is like AOL at AOL.com days, you know. And basically, no one bought this thing, and he was trying to sell it for $31.50. I had saved up like maybe like $1,200 at that point, and I tried offering. He's like, no, that's not gonna work. But I'll tell you this: you are more than welcome to put that money down, and you can take it, and we'll have a signed agreement, and you can pay me. I think it was like $125, $125 a month for X amount of time, something, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And he knew, dude, I was way over my head with this shit, way in over my head. And I showed up to this guy's house, and he's like this kind of like 80s modern mansion, and he has like a Porsche. I walk into his house, and dude, this music room or music area, because it was very large, was tiers of synthesizers like everywhere. Now I would recognize what they are. At that time, I would not know. But dude, this guy had so many that he had a bunch on their side stacked. Like it was crazy. Like, and he had this custom console made so that he could wire, I guess it was like 48 synthesizers, or he had 48 stereo synthesizers, or no, sorry, 24 stereos. So my first 24 channels are actually stereo. Then I have 12 mono, and then there's a large aux section, which is also 24. So it's kind of like an odd beast. I've had people offer me money before I knew what it was. I'm like, hold it out. But there's a lot of cool shit going on. It's like, you know, kind of like a rare sleeper thing. But it's very much on par with some stuff that I had no idea at the time. And the dude will always remind me, you know, if I was late, remind me on email, Jack Pulley. I'm like, you know, super nice guy, man. Super cool. But yeah, I paid it off very slowly. That seems to be the theme here. Things over excessive period of time. But all this stuff is honestly like working with, like, I've literally spent all the money. Like if I was touring enough and let's say I would do a record for like $2,000, well, I probably bought a $2,300 compressor. You know what I mean? A lot of, just so I can get this sound or that sound, those sounds. So there was a lot of that going on, and like whenever I would do Torche records, I would always take some money aside, go for broke, you know, living with roommates and stuff. I like I'm gonna put this aside for equipment. I would always go over that amount. Yeah. And it was just like around the holidays, some of the recording forums, like you see people blowing shit out, and like just strategically and carefully, you know, purchasing these things, which are insane how much these little boxes cost. It's fucked up. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, guitars, that stuff's pricey and expensive. Sure. Like this stuff is a joke, you know, very cruel joke. And it's addictive, and like you want to get these sounds and these things. Once you get certain things, like, damn, I do not believe the hype selling this or returning it. But there's some things that are like, wow, like this is a game changer, you know, it's like there's some fantastic stuff. And I don't know, like when I was living in LA, like I met band people and stuff like that. Like, I mean, meeting Paige Hamilton, that was awesome. And like a bunch of other people, I'm like, holy hell, like I guess this is what happens here. But the people that I would get like nervous or like kind of giddy around was like gear designers, like people that design these boxes that allow me to do these things, or that I will hopefully one day have. I'm back. Just a calling. But yeah, I just, you know, over time, years and years and years, and like being pretty frugal and saving up and all sorts of, you know, just recording bands for like, and having all that money go to a gear purchase or something.
So like, of all of something that, you know, we talk about a lot on the shows, like, is there like, what's the like one piece of gear that, because for you obviously it's kind of like a two-part, because like what's the one piece of recording gear, right, versus like, we haven't even talked about your amp and pedal company on the music side, like the musician side of things. Like, so what of all of the gear that you've gotten, like what's like the one thing that you couldn't live without?
Man, I am so tied in to several items, or used to having them.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's just like there are certain microphones, there are certain mic pre's, certain compressors. But I think in the end, it's crazy though, because like you can have something that's really nice, but if you don't have like a good converter, it's not worth shit.
Doesn't
kinda.
matter. Right?
Right. So that's kind of one. But if I had to choose one thing, and some people were like, yeah, of course, asshole, is a Neve 1073 mic pre. That thing is, I mean, the API shit's great too, especially if you mount it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that, because when the first time I heard that, because I'll use that to record and I'll print mixes through that, and it's just like, wow, like
Okay.
I get it, I believe the hype, you know. So that damn box, yeah, sure, that's the
The
one.
Neve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Man.
people make movies about their prized possession consoles, right?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
true.
they do. Like, and you actually, I think there was a client in there that day, like where we went over to Sphere, like their Neve that they had there, like it was crazy. Like he was flying out dudes to. There's a studio that has changed hands. It's actually no longer Sphere, for those listening, in Burbank. That was like Kung Fu Gardens for a long time, but had this insane Neve console in there that, you know, it was like they had a ground, like from the ground up rebuilt, and like he was flying in dudes from England to come work on it, and like, but it just, it was a magical sounding console.
Yeah, it's just like it's a classic thing, and it's like many people, including the creator Rupert Neve, was like, it's not perfect. It's not like I could do so much better. This and that's like, it just has the magic, man. It's imperfectly perfect, you know.
Right.
It's got
character, you know?
Yeah, man.
Like,
And I mean, people do have like a certain connection with their consoles. Like with me personally, like this extensive bus section here, 24 is a lot, but it allows me to do a lot of things in parallel, which is super just fantastic because you get to like store things, compress things, and do all sorts of things alongside with the other signal, you know, the dry signal, or it's like you're sandwiching stuff on layers. Mm-hmm. But I mean, dude, there's like even here in Miami, I remember hearing once that what's this dude, like Lenny Kravitz has a SSL console that he has had a bunch of hits that he's mixed and worked on or written music around, and it's like the centerpiece, because really that's what a console is. Like I almost feel like, damn, I now like it's gonna be because I didn't say that, you know, I said the pre, you know, or the line amp, but it's like the console is definitely super important. But this dude apparently he has a penthouse of a condominium building or whatever on the coast there on the beach, and he actually cut out a chunk of the roof and brought in an SSL console on a helicopter. And then and he actually owns one of the Beatles consoles, but that's not the one. That's like a trophy piece. But that other one is like, that's my thing.
It's so funny, like watching that. Like I got through like quite a few hours of the Get Back, like the 4-part. The recent, like,
I haven't seen it yet.
But it's so funny, like when they go to Apple Studios, like they're like, well, we want an 8-track, and like that was like crazy. Mm-hmm. So like, cause they had to wire together 2 4-tracks, and like, dude, I think shit wasn't working. Like, and so it's like, it's kind of funny to be like, I've got a Beatles thing. I was like, doesn't work.
right. Dude, and the crazy thing is, I think that they were one of the few or only bands that, maybe not only, but they were one of the first bands to like sync up. I forget if it was like 216 or 224 tracks.
Yeah.
You know, and shit like that. And then, I mean, back in the day, man, it's like once something was recorded, and then you bounce that down to 2 tracks, you know, or 1 track, and like that's how when you record, like you get a sound like, oh, that sounds perfect, and then you add another instrument, like, damn, I gotta make space or work with that other sound now. And every time you add something, it's like now we have the ability to, keep everything multi-tracked and separate, and like you keep your original sound, you try to keep it on par with all the new sounds you're adding, and like not lose depth or character or whatever. But back then it was like, that's the sound. Now that gets printed, and then stuff gets printed over it and over it. And I mean, I think there was some overdub or something with like, I don't know if it was Dark Side of the Moon or one of the Pink Floyd records where like Alan Parsons was like, okay, what you guys want to do or what we're agreeing to do is we're literally going to print out all these tracks onto 2 tracks and then record some other thing over it or whatnot. And if this goes wrong, we lose everything. And we start over. And they were like, they did it, dude. They rolled the dice, you know? And I mean, that's kind of, you go, hey, I give you credit, man. Like, it's exciting. Damn. But I'm sure there's a lot of bands that were like, yeah, we got to start over, record it all over again.
That's I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But I know we've kept you quite a while. Like,
this has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been incredible.
This is probably one of the funniest interviews we've had.
Dude, I feel like I'm so scatterbrained that I've gone. It's just like Linguini Highway over here. I'm like just all over the place with that timeline, forgetting things. Like,
well, real quick, we didn't really touch on the on your amp and pedal company. Where can people go to find out more? And is there anything like special coming up? I know you've had some things in the works, like some new colors, maybe some new products. I don't know.
Yeah, we got some stuff, man. We were just so backed up with back orders. I had to like just kind of not freeze the site, but let's put everything as if it were sold out, and people are like, what's going on?
Really?
Like,
that's awesome.
Dude, it was just it's a lot, and I mean, yeah, it's awesome, but it's also like, it feels not so great when you have like 20 something people at least waiting consistently. It's bad feeling,
Right.
And you write emails, and then if I put up a picture of something that's going out or an appreciation post that someone might send me or whatever, then you get a bunch of emails of worried customers, and like, I mean, it's
where's mine?
Some people I mean it's cool, but it's just like it's like, I think like there's a certain like nervous customers out there, or like people that are just used to the Amazon system, where like, I want it now, I'm buying now. Like every audio trace, every little thing is hand made. It's all hand wired. It's like there's no printed circuit board. Every component is manually attached to the next component, and therefore there's going to be delays. And obviously, we get our parts from we use Somogami wire, so that's coming from Japan for the inside, oxygen-free silver wire. We have stuff coming from the UK, Switzerland, France, Germany, Canada, and with countries opening and closing, it got real hectic for a while.
Oh,
it was
shit,
like, who's closed? What do we got? What do we don't got? What's going on? So, and then like that kind of started getting a little more normal. And then after that, then there was like people catching variants. So then like things started getting slow again. I was like, oh shit, here we go. So finally, I can say now we are literally down in 10 days. I think we'll be caught up. We're down to it's almost unreal to be saying it. We're down to only 6 pedals in the queue, and like I am so excited to get those out. And we've been selling heads. Unfortunately, the prices are about to go up because we can't it's just like we worked for under minimum wage for a while, then we're up to minimum wage, and now it's not only that, it's just like everything that went up. Even our like the transformers that we use in our amps, that company is no longer around. So we'd had some crazy R&D that we had to do to maintain the same sound. We actually ended up getting a slightly better sound and like modified stuff with the first channel of the head, because the head is 2 heads in one box, and you could play out of both channels at the same time. Each EQ is push-pull for different values or whatever overlaps. So it was a R&D phase for the heads, and like what companies don't exist anymore. Now we got to source new things and stay to like our target quality, kind of our bottom line of like what's acceptable to us. But yeah, everything is moving forward in a much better kind of manner, where I am now going to be getting all the builds done.
Yeah.
And then once those are done, we're gonna, announce like, hey, on this given Thursday or whatever at 8 p.m. the pedals will go live. Limited quantities, not quality, quantities available. And we'll see how it goes. But the only time we were able to do that was when Torch did a live at CME thing, and we did some comparisons with like a certain head that's very popular brand that is like someone's take on Marshalls with more
Oh, the Crate Blue Voodoo.
And honestly, it's probably just as good. But so it's a $3,700 head, and I'm like, all right, let's get a great sound. All right, that sounds awesome. Everyone agreed. Yes. All right, now we're gonna get a Class A discrete distortion pedal as a preamp, and go into the effects loop return. Therefore, removing the preamp out of the equation and only using the power section.
All right.
And everyone really liked what they heard. They, in their words, and I thought the same thing, but they were like, dude, the head sounds like a pedal, and the pedal sounds like the fucking head. I'm like, that's
awesome.
That's what we're trying to do. So CME bought or pre-ordered 25 pedals, and they sold out like in 2.5 days.
Shit.
So
that's awesome.
With that, I was like, oh, I hope they can sell them. And it was awesome. And now moving forward, I think the first batch, we're probably going to do like, I'll because I got to pay for this shit all up front. And the profit margin isn't really like, it doesn't make sense to people.
Is this the Tetrafet?
Yeah, the Tetrafet and the NX Bass channel. Those are the main two. People haven't caught on to how like savage the boost is, but I think that's going to change.
The boost is always on now.
Like, Fred, you use that one, right? Yeah, you use that one.
Dual range boost, and like, and I always carry the Tetrafet with me. Like, as for fly gigs, like for exactly the application that you have. Like, if it's a head that I'm like, this is going to take some time to get a good sound out of, like, I know I can just run straight into the effects loop return, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry about fly gigs anymore or like overseas touring, and it's simple. It's like, and it never hides the sound of your instrument. It still retains your dynamics. So you play harder, you'll get up to like 6 dB, like boost in volume, where other pedals are like almost like just taken away from you, Okay. And it's just like there's a good amount of pedals out there, but we like it when we see our EQs in the negative as opposed to maxed or like too far into the positive. So we like to give people, because what happens when you play outdoors? It's like, oh shit, I lost everything. So it's like, nope, I got more on tap. Let's go. But moving forward, I'm gonna, just everything will be, built, and then like hopefully the first round will be like something like 10 boost pedals, 15 guitar pedals, 15 bass pedals, and kind of see how that goes. And then, keep that number up. Or if we get a lot of emails like, damn, they sold out too fast, then maybe bump it up a little at a time. But that's going to be the way we're going to do it from now on. I can't deal with this. I'm not a customer service guy.
Disappointment.
Yeah, it's just like anxiety. You get anxiety, and like you tell somebody, all right, it's going to be like 10 days, and then like shipping. Something's delayed, or these people ran out, or there's something going on in that country right now. It's just like, damn, it's, right now we're just throwing everything we have at all the components, get them all pre-built, and then, everyone has pretty much like a fair chance at like getting one. But moving forward, preamp pedal, 2 preamp pedal is on the way. Maybe like a combo that would be like a ripper in the studio, which probably will be plenty loud live too. Just we're just now catching up, and like
power amp by any chance?
Power amp, I would like to, but I think we're like the pedals just do so well. Yeah. And it's just kind of like then with shipping, it's kind of expensive with stuff, and like even the cabinets, like sometimes it's like, I'll reduce the price if I have to on the cab, because sometimes shipping is crazy, and I don't know. But the main thing here is now that we're caught up, now we can entertain things like power amp and all that. But the 2 preamp pedal, like a 2 or 3 channel guitar preamp, that's just like savage as hell.
Yeah.
That's up next. And some other stuff. Like I think we're gonna modify the pedals going forward and switch over like metal knobs, little things that kind of, you know, just kind of strengthen the build a little bit. Not that there's issues really, but those metal knobs are so much nicer. Just like little details, but within the pedal, the tetrafret, when you have an up position, it's full bandwidth, and when you pull the shift down, it kind of like tightens up that low end for soloing. But I think everyone always has an up position, so we're gonna change that to like a different type of distortion. You know, so we're changing little things.
Yeah,
But there is.
I've inadvertently kicked that switch a couple times and just been like, where'd the low end go?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I don't like, some people like it for soloing and stuff, but I think, you know, it's like we can have a little more, it'll be a little more fun to have like a different saturation, different, you know, or whatever. If it wants an old one, look it up. I'm sure there's a used one for sale somewhere. Yeah. But there's also let me think here. There's also a pedal that I have the prototype to, and it's kind of insane, honestly. It's called the ADE. Well, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to reveal it. But basically, if you have, if you're in a studio or you're in a band with someone that you feel should be digging in more, it could make somebody sound like they're like, you know, ripping on bass like Bad Brain Status. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Really?
Yeah, it's like really, if you control dynamics, expand them, or really make us, you know, a regular playing sound like it's raging.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing. It's not really a compressor. There's an, you know, but it expands as much as it does compress, but it doesn't rob you of your dynamics. It just embellishes.
Interesting.
Yeah, something different. That's what we try to do, just different shit, you know.
When's the timeline on that one?
Hopefully, later this year or early next year. We're just gonna like, I have the prototype, but we're gonna expand a little more on like its capabilities. And
yeah, you know. I have someone in mind that might dig that pedal.
Cool. Yeah, it brings down the hammer, man, for like that, like a more like jarring, like
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. I've used it in the studio too, like on sending it out to like drum shells to experiment. It's cool.
Got it.
Well, awesome. Jonathan, thanks you so much for coming on. It's been rad getting to catch up. It's been too long.
Right, man. Yeah, I haven't seen you guys in a long time, so it's great to see you and laugh with you a bit here.
Hell yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to catch you with Torche or Shitstorm coming through LA.
We'll be out there. Torche is doing, I guess I should mention something about that, I guess. We're playing Miami May 8th with some really rad bands. There's a band I recorded, I fucking think they're awesome. It's like if like Swerve Driver and Hum had a child that rocked hard. They're called Smelter, SMELTER, yes. And then there's a quirky band that I recorded. They're playing a show too called Weird Adults. They have like this whole like almost like Pavement, like if Pavement got into punk but did some drugs while playing grungy stuff, and like is also kind of like Presidents of the United States of America. They have like, dude, their sarcastic lyrics and all this shit is like, you can relate. It's so good. It's like they're good. So it's actually their first show ever. They don't know anybody. They're from like a port town. I did an LP for them, now a second LP. And they're just trying to crank them out. They say they have a double LP in mind, but there's a new single they just put out called Two Skirts, and it's like, it's heavy. They got their own thing going on. It's almost like parts of it are kind of like the Blue Album, like the drumming, like kind of minimal, but like it's fun. So it's and then a younger band that kind of has a Strokes thing going on with some jangly stuff. So it's like Better Than This, Weird Adults, Smelter, and us, Torche, playing Miami May 8th. Then we're doing Desert Fest in New York on May 12th or 13th.
Okay.
And then I think the next thing after that is the Meshuggah tour, which I think we're playing the Forum in LA. So
dude, that's
Whoa.
fucking
Hell
insane.
yeah.
I don't know. What's the open air one? That's not that one.
No. Forum is the classic. I mean, where the Lakers and stuff used to play,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I saw. I saw some Lakers.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, we're playing there. Shit.
Yeah.
Well,
That one-
there's
think
a
I'm
couple
thinking-
open air. Like now there's SoFi,
which is like the biggest one.
Rams. But then there's Bank of California.
Which one's the one? I think it's near Griffin Park. Is it Rose something?
Oh, the Greek.
The Greek.
No, not that one. There's another one. I saw Kraftwerk at this other one.
Rose Bowl?
At Hollywood Bowl.
Hollywood Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if it was that one. Okay, cool. No, not that one. It's the Forum.
Yeah, that'll be a
But
good.
yeah.
Man, that show's gonna be insane.
I think now the lineup is Meshuggah, Converge is doing half of it, and then I think it's In Flames or Shadows Fall. One of those bands is doing the other half. So it should be fun. Should be cool.
That's a pretty epic tour.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. We got asked like some questions for the fest here in Florida. It's really awesome, fun fest. We play quite often, or yearly or bi-yearly.
Gainesville Fest.
Yeah, well, not. Yeah, it's the fest. There was Gainesville Fest was an old one,
Right.
and then this is just fest. People call it.
Yeah.
But it's a great fest. But we actually, I'm losing my train of thought. I think I'm taxed on like mental space here. Oh no, that we were going to play that, but we aren't. So those are basically the only shows. And they actually asked us, this is what I was getting at. Last year, it's like they had some questions. And they're like, is there something that you were surprised of how you felt about it, about this certain thing that you used to do regularly post-pandemic? Is there any like changes on something you used to do in your daily life that you may feel different about now? Something like that. And it was like, yeah, don't miss touring. I don't think that's what they were. That's the last thing. I don't know if that made it to print, but I'm like, yeah, I don't really miss touring, But something like that, Meshuggah tour, something like that, it's cool. I don't know. A lot of things changed throughout the pandemic for the better, to be quite honest. I know a lot of people had some hard times, a lot of awful shit happened. But I don't know. I just kind of like I was able to get the studio going, which was insane. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm putting all my money into this, but it's been good. And I was mixing a lot of stuff that was recorded elsewhere. So it's like a lot of unattended stuff. And then, I think this week moving forward, all the bands I'm, surrounded by and everyone's like vaccinated and careful. Yeah. So I think this week might be the first time that I record somebody like a band with I'm kind of feeling out, like maybe no mask,
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny, like the first year solid. I mean, if someone's singing down there, it's like, yeah, take the shit off, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm gonna slowly work into that. But tomorrow might be the first day that I see all the band members' face as I've recorded bands that I don't know what they look like from the nose down. It's like
That's
crazy.
Crazy.
But I think that band I'm actually doing is awesome. It's like the Breeders meets Hum or something. And Hum keeps on coming up. I think there's just.
I feel like there's a resurgence.
They had a little comeback. That last record was really good.
Fucking awesome, man. Yeah. And unfortunately, drummer passed away. But I hope they play out, man, because we played some shows with them. The nicest guys ever. It's like I walked in on sound check. I'm like, oh damn! And then they finished their sound check, jumped off stage, and started carrying and helping us carry equipment on stage. I'm like, dude. 12-year-old, 11-year-old me right now is losing his shit. And
wow.
I was talking to the guitar player Tim through social media or something. He's like, no, hey man, get my number, dude. Text me directly, this and that. And Matt Talbot would email me a while back. He's actually doing a acoustic show here soon. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, it'd be cool to check that out.
He records that band I used to play with, Sweet Cobra. You know those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to play with. They recorded, I think, the last 2 records with that.
Right. Yeah, he has Earth Analog, and but he's also, I think he's been teaching more. He's a recording professor.
Oh, okay.
college, but he apparently keeps buying. He lives in a really small town, and he keeps buying. Like he owns like a bar. He bought an old grocery store that's just a vacant lot. He just keeps doing it. He has the beautiful studio, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, it'd be good to it's be nice to. I don't miss touring, but it's gonna be so fucking nice to see a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in so long, hang out, and also like I'm a huge fan of going to killer restaurants on the road. So, hitting up some sweet spots. Hopefully they're still around, man. So,
I know. It's a crapshoot.
Crazy.
Man. Well,
but I'm glad people are healthy, bringing new life into this world and shit. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, dude, it's been great catching up, and can't wait to do it in IRL.
Yeah.
At some point.
See you in person.
It's going to be so IRL.